That's some dial-up sounds. Hello and welcome to Rule Zero. Today I am joined by a literal Sterling Cooper, but also a sterling panel of guests, including the aforementioned Sterling
nice
Cooper.
Segue, yes.
I polished that one off. Started polishing that one this morning. Mr. Rollo Tomasi, the Godfather, is here. Well down. And the grumpiest man in the
Statler and Waldorf are here to tell you about a new game.
I'll have you guys know I'm in a good mood. I went for a beautiful hike. Today is my last day of vacation, or what yesterday was, and now I get and like the other Cooper, Rich, like he took off. Like, yeah, man, and that should be a show unto itself, the importance of taking off. But yeah, I'm actually not as grumpy as I normally am.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Nice to hear. And how are you doing, Sterling? Because we've not seen you on here for a little while. What's been happening?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I just moved into my new apartment. It's been taking up a big chunk of my time moving all this fucking furniture around. Oh God, releasing some new courses. I've been sitting down filming a bunch of stuff in here. I'm writing a new book, a whole bunch of stuff. So
good stuff. I'll look forward to that, man. And Mr. Ryan Stone has just joined us. How are you, mate?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you doing? We're going with ASMR today. New camera lens. Having fun with this one. I actually really like this new one.
That is you're looking very, very sharp in all senses. In all senses of the word, Ryan. Good to have you here.
Did you get a new board, Ryan?
No, I'm not gonna. I still got my focus right. I don't want any Don DeMarco buttons. That's your thing.
You're quite a blue-looking background there, though, Ryan.
Like which would you prefer? Let's do some inner game. Yeah, we'll go with orange. Orange is very, like, it's red pill, but not too on the nose, and I'm not trying to upstage Rollo.
Whoa, look at that.
Nice.
That's Sterling's intro music. I'm sorry. I should have put that on in the beginning.
Good stuff. Okay, so today we are talking about all things in a game. Although great thumbnail by you, Rollo, there with the.
Why, thank you. I thought that was appropriate.
The head game thing. So hopefully that'll bring the masses in. But yeah, we're talking about head game. We're talking about actually inner game and what inner game is, and the fact that really, in my view, as somebody who teaches game, as in the sense of game that we know and love in this space, which is learning to get better in dating, get better with women, and so on. In my view, inner game has been derided somewhat by the community. People think it's wishy-washy. People think, oh yeah, that inner game stuff, but that's not the real deal. You need to be learning lines. You need to be learning routines. You need to learn tangible techniques. And while there is a place for that stuff, I do believe that actually the inner game side of things is arguably more important in the case of meeting women and for all other aspects of life. But of course, when we take a step back, inner game, and I'm going to go on to some definitions in a second, but in a game itself has got to be the most important thing, surely. I mean, surely getting your internal mindset right, including any psychological issues, but certainly getting the way that you look at yourself, the way you perceive yourself right, and your headspace right has got to be the first thing that any of us do before we sort of proceed to worry about the externals. Because if the stuff in there is not on point, then you're not going to get very far. But in terms of defining terms, because I think with something like this, it's worth having a little bit of, a pin in the map in terms of where we're coming from. The term inner game was actually first devised, apparently from my research, was first devised by somebody called Timothy Galway, who coined the phrase in his book, The Inner Game of Tennis, the classic guide to the mental side of peak performance, right? So this isn't something that came out of pickup artists or anything like this. This was actually from a sports psychology book. And basically, he says that every game is composed of two parts, an outer game and an inner game. And the outer game is fought against, another opponent, or it's fought against somebody else, or external factors. And then the inner game is fought against your own inner doubts and fears. And then there's a little bit more. It says the outer game is played in an external arena to overcome external obstacles to reach an external goal. So it's pretty straightforward. The inner game takes place within the mind of the player and is played against such obstacles as fear, self-doubt, lapses in focus, and limiting concepts or assumptions. So, and I don't just want to talk about dating today, but obviously dating is a kind of a focus of these shows. But already a lot of that stuff, obstacles, fear, self-doubt, lapses in focus, and limiting beliefs, all of that stuff we can apply definitely in the dating arena, can't we? So just to kick it off, I don't know who wants to start, but has anyone got any just overall ideas about in a game, how important it is, and if you agree with that definition or not?
I'll take a crack at it.
Please.
By all means. The first thing, I used to be on radio. It was a hot 15 minutes, but I was on radio. And the biggest hurdle was getting over the fact of what you're doing at that moment. And the inner game is get out of your own head and be focused on your goal and your mission. And that in that particular case, it was providing a radio show. And whatever task you're doing, whether that's chasing a girl, doing a radio show, you're at an interview or whatever, you're on theater, you don't exist. All of your faculties must be focused and zeroed in on whatever that goal is, defeating the tennis opponent, performing your best, whatever that is. The nanosecond you start analyzing yourself while you're supposed to be performing, it's over. That's when you stutter. That's when you lose focus. That's when you lose your train of thought. And so it's almost, and I can understand people want to try their best, and so they're getting nervous. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. And Troy, I'm sure you've done this, whether it was, you're on your game or not, or something like that. Your best performances are usually like, nope, there she is, and you don't even think about it. Yeah. You just go and you do it. But to do it well, whatever that endeavor may be, and this is the pre-planning, the pre-preparation, all that, you have to have prepared. You have had to have practiced. Fitch, even, when he goes into a fight, it's not like it's in your head. No, it's whether you trained or not, and you did your best, and you're ready to go into that ring. Yeah. And so when it comes in particular, and almost people listening would have a interest in girls, are you, and I hate to use the phrases, but are you the best version of who you could possibly be? Because then if you fail, it is not your fault. You did everything you possibly could do coming up to that point. And if you're not worried and you're not concerned and you're not in your own head and you deliver these Cary Grant lines and you did it and the girl still turns you down, then at least you can forgive yourself. But if you are not the best version, if you have not built up authentic confidence because you got a good job, you got your financial act together, you went to the gym, you're not afraid of girls or whatever it is, and you go in and you hit it out of the park, and that ball happens to go foul, which I'll explain American baseball to you and Sterling later. That's you did it, and then you can walk away without a worry or a doubt. But that is the quickest way to get over whatever your own battles within yourself, is to make sure that you're authentically confident and accomplished before you go into that ring, that recording studio, or that nightclub.
Yeah, good point. But then what comes first? Does the inner game come first in order to get yourself into the, you're confident enough to get good, or do you just start the practice of getting good at whatever the skill set is? So then the inner game comes as a result of that.
I'd say both. Like you gotta go out and practice.
Got to do the reps.
Yeah, you got to, and John,
wax off.
Yeah, you got Fitch. You got to go spar before you go into an actual title bout.
Yeah,
But I mean, and you should. And that right there, that beats down fear. Like the more and more failure you have, the more and more girls you ask out, the more and more interviews you go on,
more experience you have.
The more you get punched in the face or get a foot in your face if it's jujitsu, the more you're like, oh, it's not that bad, and I survived to see the next day. But both is you can't just go in as a theoretician and ask girls out being a fat slob. You actually have to go and put in the work.
Well, that's the funny part about pickup.
Success, probably.
Yeah, true. Like, I don't get that, why pickup gets a lot of hate like that.
Preparation, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, Ryan.
I was going to say, it's same as me, right? It's like, whatever. Every skill you have to learn, it's the same. Riding a bike, you don't just point and go. You have to learn how to ride. You put on training wheels. I mean, I could use analogies all day to every skill. For some reason, when it comes to women, and I know Rollo has an article on this, it becomes like, well, if you just don't intuitively know, then go die in a ditch and be somewhere else.
Yes.
It's like, no, it's the same as any skill in human endeavors. You practice, you break something down, you deconstruct it to like its base elements. That's why I loved like Mystery was you start off with an opener. This is how you talk to somebody you've never spoken to before to get them to want to talk to you later. This is the things that you're looking for if somebody is interested in you. They call them indicators of interest. And it sounds cringy. And a lot of guys make fun of it. Like on Twitter, Rolo, you know your how would you open lines you always use? One of those alpha male
That's a
Legends
joke
of
now,
Men
but it used
accounts.
to be very serious. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's like a joke one. He put that out there, and a bunch of like nerd accounts were basically saying nice shoes, let's fuck, but thinking it unironically. And yeah, so I get it. And the stuff sounds cringe. And if you don't know what you're doing, it sounds cringe and people make fun of you. So yeah, I get it. But you got to plow through that. Same way you plow through anything. Like John was just saying, you practice, you learn how to move your leg in order to throw a kick. You learn how you have to turn your hip, and you look awkward and you'll never hit anybody. But then you get good enough, like Aaron was saying, to where you don't have to think about it anymore. Like when I did pickup in my early 20s, I learned the same thing. I was got to do phase 1, got to do phase 2, phase 3. And then I got good enough at it that I'm like, I just started skipping steps because I didn't need them. Puck talks about that in Book of Puck too, where he doesn't believe in Kino anymore because he realizes Kino was there when he didn't know how to look sexual. And so for him, Kino was the way of establishing this is a sexual engagement here. I'm not just trying to be your friend. And he goes, but now everything I say, everything I do, I put on a bunch of muscle. I got the fuck me eyes. I don't need to do Kino escalation. I don't need to do the DeCarlo escalation ladder anymore. And that's kind of where you want to be. You want to be at the point where you like make fun of guys. I can't believe you have to think about this. It just comes naturally. And then you forget about the 5 years of unnatural practice you were putting in, you know? That's all I got on this point.
I have a question. What's Kino? This is not a card game, I presume.
Kinesthetics. It's
touching.
Sorry, I'll de-jargonize it. It's touching a girl in a way that doesn't creep her the fuck out.
Okay, it's not the card game that all the Asians like to play down
No,
here.
not
Right.
Keno. No.
Yeah.
I told you guys I met Mystery over in Ukraine, didn't I? Yeah,
You did?
Yeah. I met the goat himself, Mystery, over in Kiev. It was a celestial moment. It was like the sun shone down and there was light and there was a halo coming out of his head. And but yeah, no, good, nice guy.
I looked at I'll give you a quick example of this. Is I think that it's you can make. I'm glad John Fitch is on with us today because you can sort of make an analogy between martial arts and game. Really, I've always used the analogy of like wax on, wax off, right, from the Karate Kid, right, where Mr. Miyagi has Daniel-san do the wax on one way and wax off the other way, and all he's doing is just basically polishing the Mr. Miyagi's car the whole time. And he's thinking, what the hell is this? I'm not learning karate. I'm just learning how to wax your car, man. What is this about? And really what he's teaching him is, motor function, right? How to do these little, instinctively do these particular actions so that you can get to the next step, so that you can learn something that's a little bit greater. And what it's doing is that practice is actually creating your internal state, right? So it's really muscle memory. It's really motor function. It's getting that into your head. Another analogy is, you guys have ever been to when you guys were in driver's ed in high school? Do they still teach that? I don't know, but they always tell you, like, if you find yourself in a skid, like if you're like turning, you're on an icy road or whatever, and they tell you turn into the skid so you can sort of like get the Tokyo drift kind of thing going, so you can right the car. Every bone in your body says slam on the brakes, you stop the car, just stop the motion. That's the instinct. But what happens when you do that is you make things worse. The car ends up spinning and you end up turning around and you end up in a worse state because of that instinct to stop, rather than turn into the skid, slow down, and then gradually hit the brakes a little bit. And so you can sort of like right the car and get a little bit of a slide going there. The instinct to do certain things for self-preservation in particular is an easy example, but we have this instinctual way of thinking about stuff that we have to train ourselves out of. And that's really, really, I think, what John Fitch would teach in MMA and self-defense is you got to be willing to put your face in front of a punch so that you can, block that punch, and so that you can survive that particular instance where you're at, that fight or flight, methodology or that instinct is something that sometimes you have to really train yourself out of. Most guys don't really realize that, and it takes practice to do such a thing so that that's your instinct rather than what your natural instincts are. It's kind of like what's called operant conditioning, and you're conditioning yourself for a certain set of prompts to behave in such a way. Well, what happens is most guys only fixate on whatever the practice is. So when it comes to game and we say, okay, here's how we've broken this down, right? There's the arousal phase, there's the attraction phase, there's seduction phase, there's the comfort phase, and all this other stuff. And to guys who are just like, who have no frame of reference for this, all they see is the practice. They don't see what the practice is teaching, and you are internalizing as a result of the practice. So, for instance, I forget which account it was on Twitter, but like this week, somebody put this shot of this chick who's reaching for a bag of Doritos, and she looks kind of good looking, and of course it was a "How would you open, Ryan?" And all I did was put the most basic opener that I've understood since like 2000. Well, really earlier than that, but since like 2003 or whatever, classical formal game, which is, are those any good? Right. That's the opener for something like for that. Right. And then, of course, what happens is every spurg in the chat goes, "Oh, that would never work. Oh, no. Yeah. If you haven't been out of the house in 50 years, who doesn't know that those are Doritos? Blah, blah. Everybody wants to be like this literal kind of autistic, analysis of the whole thing. And I go, that's the reason why it's effective. The reason why it's effective is like, who doesn't know that Doritos are a staple of the American diet for, I don't know, since the 80s, right? And so, but that's what makes it ridiculous, and that's what makes it sort of an opener for guys. And that's all. If you can get to that point, then you've got an opener. You have this conversation, and she's kind of like looking at you sideways, kind of thing. And so there you've got that conversation, and it's already started to go. What these guys do is they fixate on the line. They fixate on the practice. They fixate on wax on, wax off. Not that they are learning karate, not that they are learning the internalized state. They are learning Dorito game. Yes, they fixate on the practice, and so they ridicule the practice. No, it never worked. Oh, and so as a result, they don't do the practice because it seems ridiculous to them, or it seems like counterintuitive to them. And so as a result of that, they never get to the state where they are internalizing what game is actually teaching them.
Yeah, exactly. And we see this. I see this a lot. So I need to take you off, Ryan. I see this a lot actually when we've been training guys this summer in various locations around Eastern Europe and stuff. And you get guys who do know actually a lot about game, or at least they've watched a lot of videos, they've read books, they've read articles, they know what they should be saying, they know the kinds of things that they can say because they've seen a Tom Torero video or they've seen a James Tusk video or whatever. But what the problem is, they don't have anything behind it. So they go into the interaction with the girl and they say they say things that they've heard somebody else say, but they're not carrying it off with any confidence in themselves. They're not carrying it off with any sense of underlying sexuality or anything like that. They're doing it as a rote exercise, like you'd recite something you've learned by heart in school, and
by numbers.
Exactly, and it just falls flat, So that's why I think sorting out the inner stuff, and this is when I talk about inner game, I'm also thinking about, okay, so how do I perceive myself? Do I perceive myself as being, again, I hate to use the cliches, but do I perceive myself as being like a high value guy? Do I perceive myself as being like, hey, I've got something to contribute here when I walk into the bar? Or am I shy and self-effacing and kind of have very low self-esteem? If I have very low self-esteem, I need to correct that, because what you project is what other people tend to buy into. So if you're, and I know you've also, yes, you've got to do the work as well. You've got to also be improving your finances, money, muscles, game, all the rest of it. But, with all of that in place, if you walk in to the bar in a very self-effacing, self-deprecating manner, people aren't going to buy into that, because people tend to buy into surface, and surface is all about, you've got to look like you've got stuff going on, right?
Could I introduce
the problem is that everywhere you go, you're always there. And I mean, the guy you are up here is always there. So no matter no matter what line you're saying, no matter Troy Francis might have given you this amazing opener, but you don't buy into the mentality of the guy that
congruency.
It's the congruency thing, right? So if you have this doubt, this internal doubt, and this this lack of self-esteem, this lack of confidence, and you beat yourself up, and your internal dialogue is a shitty one.
Yeah.
That manifests itself in little micro expressions in your body language. That manifests itself in an inability to maintain eye contact with the girl, for example. It manifests itself as like shaky hands, a squeaky voice, tight, tense shoulders, all these little tiny things that women subconsciously pick up on immediately.
Yeah.
Which communicate to her that you aren't the confident guy that you're pretending to be, which makes you, like Roller just said, incongruent. Which incongruence is really just chick speak for creepy.
Yes. Yes.
I want to get into that today too.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, welcome to the panel to John Fitch. Good to see you, man. So from a sort of sports perspective or from a professional fighting perspective, how would you say this stuff applies? I mean, like, how important is, what we might loosely term inner game as opposed to just knowing how to hit someone?
Man, I mean, inner game, that's your strategy. That's how you fight. Who are you as somebody who wants to fight? Like, that's something we talk about in fighting and jiu-jitsu is, what's your game? You need to develop your game. A lot of guys like to attack the same problem different ways. So you have a class, you teach them 1,000 different techniques. It's kind of up to the student to pick those techniques and put together the ones they like the most, the ones that their body works the best with. A short guy with stubby legs is probably going to have a hard time developing a game and a system around triangle choking people, so you have to kind of take the techniques that you've learned and what you're actually good at and what you excel at and kind of mash them together and you create your own game. And, you watch different fight styles, you'll watch different guys fight a different way. Like, they've pieced together their best attacks using what they're best at. The guys who fail to create their own game and just know a shitload of techniques, generally they don't get very good at competing at high levels. They could be hell of instructors, though. I've seen some great instructors who had, they knew all the techniques and they knew how to do everything perfectly, but they couldn't win a match, whether it was grappling or a fight, to save their lives because they just never orchestrated things and put them in a system together that created something that let them win. And I think, attracting girls, it's like a lump sum game. It's like all of the things that you are mixed together into your being in order to attract a female.
Yeah.
And
Fitch,
if you don't have all the pieces put together, if you haven't learned all the techniques, you haven't seen them all, like you're not gonna be anything worth being with.
Yeah.
Fitch, may I introduce another variable into this? Because Fitch, he goes and fights, and I do something nowhere near as masculine. I do ballroom dancing, but it's also your opponent, or in my case, my dance partner.
On toes.
Yeah, but there's and this is where, and this is one of my biggest complaints I have about my clients, and I'm sure you guys do as well, or people. Everyone's looking for this goddamn formula.
Yep.
Where people are literally looking for a script that they're on a date. It's like, no, you do not understand. You're interacting with another human being. That human being is not a robot. And this is where art and humanity and psychology and emotion, and thank God it comes in, because I don't want to go and execute a choreographed, meaning scripted routine dance. When I go on date, I don't know what moves I'm going to do, just as John doesn't know what punch he's going to throw. It is completely dependent not only on the environment, but the other person that he's sparring against. And there's only so much rules and protocol, or to roll praxeology, will carry you. In the end, you have to be in that moment, taking in whatever's going on. And it's almost the less you try, the better you're going to be, or the less you try to script it, the better you're going to be. And so if you're adaptable, flexible, and this is why it's like when guys go, what do I tell the girl? You've already lost. Go on the bleeping date and relax and have a good time. And if you have gotten comfortable and talked and practiced whatever capacity and role that might be, you'll do much better. And so, Fitch, kind of explain like your opponent, how it's not the same person.
Mm.
Yeah.
You're not fighting the same person, but a lot of, I always approach the fight as I'm going to force my will upon this person. sort of thing. That was me making choices and leading, basically. That's me leading the fight, rather than me saying, "Oh, I'm gonna go see what happens," and just you know, do whatever they want and react to whatever they do.
Yeah. We've got some real life women in the chat today because I seem to be
Oh my god!
amazingly.
No, you lie. You just sir.
Well, apparently, I seem to be picking up something
Much
of a
feistier than dead women.
yeah. Well, I seem to be picking up something of a female audience now, obviously down to my matinee idol good looks. But
I think it's Sterling. Sterling's the draw.
Yeah. We've got Glory Be Amen in here. Good to see you. And we've also got Little Nikki. Now, Little Nikki, actually, hang on. Here we go. Makes a point. There's no I guess she's talking about game. There's no formula. We're all different. And if the chemistry is not there, it doesn't matter what you do. It's not happening. Yeah, yes, Nikki, but how does the chemistry come about? I would argue that chemistry is at least in part created by the manner in which the guy approaches. Now, if the guy approaches in a way that is kind of intriguing, I mean, Sterling, what's your thoughts on this? But if the guy approaches, he's got something about him. Basically, let's put it like that. He approaches a group of girls. They're more likely to engage. Those girls are more likely to feel chemistry than if he's very self-effacing and shy and he's kind of like, "Oh, do you mind if can I just possibly speak to you?" I mean, what do you guys, Sterling? What do you think about that?
Well, it's
100%.
no coincidence that the guys who are attractive to women just magically happen to be the guys that can generate this chemistry.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, exactly.
That sounds like a predictive framework to me, Sterling. Please continue.
This is something that women say all the time, though, is that we're all like so different. It's all different. We're not the same. Women are not the same. We're all individually so unique. But like we're not. We're animals. We are.
Fallacy of individuation is what it is.
And we have a certain amount of biological triggers that are just going to be there. And if you're aware of what they are and you know how to maximize those things, then there's going to be more attraction. Well, there's going to be more women attracted to you, and you're going to be able to pull more women in around your aura and your frame.
Yeah.
Plus, date enough women. Carl had a great example. I've done it myself. Everybody's done it who's dated an amount of women. You start to realize that, and this is going to really suck for a girl to hear, but you're all pretty much the same. Yep. I'm assuming after you've dated 20 or 30 guys, we probably look pretty goddamn similar too. We all respond to the same stuff. And that's like the big problem. That's why you always see these goofy pickup artists start finding Jesus after a couple years because they miss the magic. They actually want to believe that all girls are unique and different, and there's a special one out there for me. And Rollo's got an article on it about purple pill.
The same first
children with
date
dynamite
times and tell me.
Yeah, John, you were even saying that too. You were dating and you were crushing it, and you're just like, they're all kind of blending together now. I'm kind of over it for a bit.
It feels like Groundhog's Day when he's trying to rush the date along to get to the next part or whatever. It's
exactly.
Like, you feel here comes the moment where she does the thing and I gotta hold the thing and
and I get it. Like there's no rules. Yeah, I agree. But there's heuristics. And I'm going to switch it to the fighting analogy so that way John can nod if I'm making sense here. But like there's a mechanical way to throw a punch. There's a mechanical way to kick. There's a mechanical way to shoot in on somebody. Once you learn these things, great. But when you're in a fight, that has to be muscle memory. That's chemistry. He has to know, why do I want to throw a jab? I want to, test range. I want to shoot in right now because he's giving me his hip and I can get a takedown. So all those skills, yes, there's absolute heuristics and rules about how to use those skills. Putting them together is more like Aaron's ballroom dancing. Well, you just got to feel it in the moment. You got to trust your instincts. And yeah, absolutely. Trust your instincts.
Make sure
once
you
you've
don't
developed
throw her into the drummer. That's another one you don't want.
That's very specific.
Very important.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can make the point. You can make the point of this as well. Is like there are guys that women want to marry, and there are guys that women want to fuck. Right? There's that guy. Okay, so if that's the case, do you not think that women can sort of sort that out for themselves when they first meet a guy? So if we're all special little snowflakes and all individual creatures of the Lord or whatever like that, if that were the case, nobody would ever get together. Like the thing is women can figure out what a guy's about within the first 5 minutes of sort of, meeting him, at least instinctually speaking. Yeah. So really what she's getting at here, and I'll try to be as nice as I can possibly be in this analysis here, is that's what's known as the fallacy of individuation, that we're all these special little snowflakes and we're all these chaotic forces of nature and nobody can know anybody and people are people. So, you never know what's going to happen. It's like, life is a box of chocolates kind of thing. And it's like, no, there are like the machinery stays the same, the firmware stays the same, the software might be different, right? You might have been acculturated differently, you might have grown up, you might have different personalities. Yeah, there are things that make you an individual, but you're also working within what, an operative state, which is you're a human being, you're male, you're female. This is this is what gets us off. This is what's not gets us off. This is what we're revolted by. This is what we're attracted to. There are predictive frameworks around that. So yes, I think it kind of offends a lot of people when it comes to, like, especially game, because for women, game is sort of a workaround for guys to sort of like get in there kind of thing, like say these right things. And they'll work every time, and that's not why they call it PUA, right? Pick up art. And again, I'm just throwing out old school terms here, but it's pick up artistry, like artist. There's an art to it. If it was a science, it would be called pick up science. It's an art, and being able to know, being situationally aware, understanding like that where you're at, what she's about, having picking up on these cues and stuff like that, and being good at that. And that's the heart of wit, really. I mean, is understanding and reading where you're at and what you're doing and what's funny and what's not funny and what's
timing. Timing is huge.
There's a predictive framework for intersexual dynamics that I think women are really uncomfortable with, because what that means is that guys can figure out techniques to sort of get around the sexual selection side of things. It removes an element of control over hypergamy for women, and that is like the existential fear of women, is to have a guy who's not really alpha pretend well enough that he's alpha that she'll fuck him, and then later on find out that he's a beta.
Well, can I ask Rollo a question, Troy, before we go on?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Rollo. So how is it if I learn how to manipulate women to buy a Peloton bike? I use good marketing. I have a great ad campaign. That's seen as socially acceptable, even if it's a thing they don't want, like pumpkin spice latte, whatever. But for some reason, sex is the no-go. Do you know what I mean there? It's exactly the same skill sets. That's why so many old pickup artists are now marketing grifters on fucking Twitter. So what's the difference there between convincing you to buy something you don't need with money you don't have to impress people you don't like?
Right. Well, because you're not married to a Peloton for the rest of your life. You're not attached to a child because of that Peloton for the rest of your life. It's what I've called it's in at least 2 of my books where I've explained what's called the existential fear of women, which is women need 100% control over hypergamy, which is really sexual selection. That's their mating strategy. And anything that challenges that is like the fear of death, really, because in our ancestral past, if a woman was raped, let's just say, or she was forced into having sex with somebody, whether it's a prearranged marriage or it was whatever else, anything that removed that control was potentially a life-threatening situation for her. Even if she chose correctly, even if she fell in love with the right guy and he was everything to her, the fact is she could still die in childbirth. She could still die as a result of like tribal warfare. There's other things that go along with that. So the most imperative thing to women in terms of like their existence, the female experience, is having that control over who she's going to breed with and who she's not going to breed with. So when I sell you a Peloton, that's one thing. But if I sell you on a guy who is like, hey, check this guy out, he's the best. If I try to logically tell a woman, hey, this would be the best opportunity for you to have a good life and have a good father and have a good, he's invested in your children and everything else. Just the fact that I am making that case logically to her, I'm removing a certain element of choice from her, so that she is saying, well, I've got to have sex with this guy. It's almost like a prearranged marriage, and that's offensive now because it removes that control, which is rooted in existential fear.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would say though is that game in itself, it's not a magic pill. It's not like in the old, like some of the scammy marketing where
game is not a guarantee.
Yeah, just learn these 6 things and you're going to get any woman into bed. I mean, the reality is, we all get blown out all the, there's a lot of rejections in this game.
You could train boxing for 6 years and still get hit by an overhand right in a street fight and get laid out.
Yeah. So the way that I see it is more like, okay, so what are the characteristics that it's going to make it more likely to make me attractive to this woman? And you go with your best foot forward with those sorts of characteristics. Now, but that doesn't mean it's always going to work. It's not like a con trick. It's just you're putting yourself out there in a certain way. You're showing up, as the kids like to say these days, in a certain way. And, she's perhaps that makes it more likely that she's going to buy into you. It doesn't necessarily mean that she is. It's not like some kind of weird hypnosis thing. All right. But I mean, Jim H here puts chemistry. Is he hot to her, plain or simple? And he doesn't say it, but it's a bit like well, it's only looks kind of argument, isn't it? It's a bit like, well, if the dude's, he doesn't say if he means physically hot or not, but it's kind of like, oh, well, if he's good looking, he comes up to her, that's all it's about. I disagree with that, and I disagree with that from personal experience, because I went from a position of being a complete, more or less an incel, and getting no action at all in terms of dating, to very quickly, and this is many, many years ago when I was a lot younger, very quickly starting to become successful simply because I changed the way that I behaved. And it wasn't that I became suddenly amazingly hot. I didn't become amazingly ripped. I didn't suddenly have a Lambo given to me or something that was parked outside. It wasn't anything like that. It was just that I started acting differently. And so this whole argument about chemistry and it just happens. Well, maybe for some lucky people, but if you're that guy and you're not that, then you can change things about the way you behave and the way you perceive yourself, and that is going to have an effect on how women and other people come back to you.
So I've got a good life thing that I lived that kind of goes along with that. Is I was severely blue pilled before I left college, right? In that time period, with as far as dating and finding girls, and if I just, I'm a good, nice guy, I'll find somebody or she'll find me. Would just get into not so great relationships because I took what came to me. So I was an athlete, good looking guy, but it wasn't until I was a grad assistant that I lived with this guy who, black dude, who's a big pimp. Like, he would stay at one girl's apartment in her complex one day, and then he'd have me he'd let me know hey, if everybody calls, I'm at your house. And then he'd go to the other side of the apartment complex and stay with his other long-term girlfriend. They lived in the same building. And I watched this guy maneuver and how easily he talked to chicks, met to chicks, what he said, how he said the stuff, how he handled his frame. And it didn't fully red pill me, but it totally gave me different strategies for how I talk to girls and how I went about my business. And that little bit of red pilling from watching him operate opened up, the world to me. It started becoming very easy for me to get dates, striking up conversations with girls, maintaining my frame, dating multiple girls kind of at once. And then taking that when I moved to California, it made it a lot easier. And I wish I would have stayed with him and learned a little bit more, because it could have got me out of bad marriages and other shit.
Fitch, did he care about any of the outcomes? Did he care about these? I'm sure he didn't want him to get hit by a truck or anything like that. But was he oh my God, Tina didn't call me back?
No, that was never a conversation or whatever.
And that's
he might have ended up married.
Whoa. That's odd.
I think that's Fitch's mic again. There you go.
Dude, even his mic gets wet for him. That's hot.
That's the point I wanted. For younger introductory rookie guys listening, you just can't care what the outcome is. You're going to fail. Just accept it. And going back to a previous thing, I hate to sound and make a generalization, but it's true. Girls are pretty commodified. It's not like you're going to miss out. And you are going to fail. And the sooner you get over that, I'll give you another perfect analogy. Any of you guys go cliff jumping? In the water, you find a cliff or a waterfall. Yeah. Okay. What is the best way to do it?
Think less.
Right. Because what you do is, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get up there, and 100 feet is more intimidating than it sounds. That'd be 30 meters for you Brits out there. Jeez. All right, so 100 feet, and you're looking, and it's already you're paying. You should just run and jump off the damn thing. Just commit to it, and that doesn't even give you the opportunity to get inside your head and screw things up. And so kind of like riding a bike, you guys know, how do you ride a bike? What's the principle of planes and bikes? Airplanes, I mean. How do they stay aloft or upright?
Are you talking about like the radial force thing or that upright?
Momentum is how, momentum.
Oh,
You
yeah.
put a bike up, it just tips. You need the momentum for it to go. The airplane needs momentum to go. You can't sit and worry about, oh, what's the next step? Let's say, get on your damn bike and go. And so I know I know we like to delve into the details, and as we should, to understand the underlying dynamics. So if you happen to come to a crossroads, say, oh, I think it's going to go this way. But for just a basic functional private in the Army, send you off to the front, here's the basic rule. Don't care about the outcome. Don't think about it. Just go and have a good time. And unless it's war, you're getting punched in the face like Fitch, in which case, don't die.
So what's the advice that we're basically saying? Just jump off a cliff.
Don't die.
Well, yeah, don't die, and don't worry about the outcome. Like, you're just going to get nothing. What's the worst? Like, I mean, a girl shoots you down. So what? You go on a date and it's a painful endeavor. As long as you don't have any expectations, as long as you're not falling in love or putting any emotional investment in it, and not even emotional, like as long as you don't pin your pride or your self-worth on something that you're very new to, or you just haven't done enough of, you're just not good at it, you'll be fine. But this goes back to my previous point. I wrote an article many years ago, back when like Fitch was like maybe 13. It was called Why All Men Have to Become Cary Grant. And the reason I pointed that, this is a long ass time ago, is because if you become the best version of you, you don't care. Like, that's all you could have done. So the quickest short circuit or bypassing of this performance anxiety is essentially what it is just be your best and then go forth and don't worry about it. And you will bypass inner head game and worry and fret and all that. You won't need the pep talk. You won't know, oh my God, what do I say next? Just go. She's not going to come home with you. She ain't. Worry about that if that happens. But it's about maybe a 1, depending on who you are, maybe a 1 in 20, 25 chance that girl's going to come back home with you and have sex.
Yeah. Well, I was just doing some training with a guy in London, and very, very well, decent looking guy, well put together guy, well dressed, well spoken, articulate, smartly dressed. I mean, ticking all the boxes, really. Decent height. I mean, everything, ticking all the boxes. And for some reason, he was and he told me actually that he had gone down a little bit of a black pill rabbit hole a couple of years ago, which just underlines the fact for me that some of that stuff, it can suck people in who shouldn't be sucked into it. Who have no reason to go down that route at all, because they're actually they would actually pass the looks test anyway, right? But anyway, and this guy, he was still quite nervous to approach, not nervous to approach, but he would hang back and sometimes he really overanalyze it, and it would take him ages to go in and approach that girl. And I said to him, listen, I mean, really, there's only 2 outcomes here. Ultimately, she's either gonna brush you off, or you're gonna get some traction with her. So you may as well just go in quickly and find out quickly. There's no point in hanging back and umming and ahhing for 5 minutes before you go in and make the approach. You may as well just make the approach immediately, because there's only really 2 possible outcomes here. And like Cappy said, I mean, really, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, yeah, of course, some outlandish, weird thing, crazy thing could happen, but it's very, very unlikely. You
wake up next to Sterling Cooper, like, oh my God.
Yeah, that would be very strange. But, yes, you could end up in some underground dungeon like in Pulp Fiction or something, but it's very unlikely. What's likely to happen is she just goes, yeah, I've got a boyfriend, sorry. Or she's like, oh, thank you, that was nice. And then you guys have a conversation, you get her phone number. So you may as well just cut to the chase and go in there quickly, right? But it's amazing. I mean, I think that what people don't understand, maybe perhaps some women don't understand outside of this area, this community or whatever, is that guys actually find this stuff really difficult. I've worked with guys who are very good looking, very, very good looking, well put together guys. And they find it very, very, and women would think, well, what's the problem? Like, and black pill people would think, well, what's the problem? He can just, just has to exist and he's going to pull girls. They actually can find it really difficult, right? And that's, I think, what we're trying to do here really is try to provide a service to those guys to give some confidence to say, actually, look, just go out there and do it.
Troy, I want to jump in on that point about the guy who's sort of sitting there procrastinating, like an approach or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think a big chunk of it comes down to let's say the guy gets rejected, right? A big chunk of what dictates your inner game and the way you think about yourself comes down to how you frame the events that happened to you in your life.
Yeah.
So one way of framing that, if he got rejected, right, is the wrong way of framing that is, oh, I'm a worthless piece of shit. No woman's ever going to like me. It's hopeless. It's useless. Blah blah blah. Another better, more useful way of framing that interaction is, okay, I understand that I need to put the reps in to get good at this skill. I just put another rep in. I'm one step closer to being more confident with women and having more success with women. Like that is a better frame than the previous one. And I think a lot of inner game issues can stem from dudes having a bad framing of when things don't necessarily go exactly as they intended. You can completely flip like a bad outcome on its head and make it a useful frame for you for developing a stronger mental like mindset of an opinion of yourself.
Yeah.
Well, what about even using the phrase we described this, the game? Like you could even approach it as if it's fun. About the only reservation that I have back when I was young and good looking in approaching gals was I didn't want to bother them too much. And so I have more of an airstrike, kind of quick in and out, but neither here nor there. But, you know, why not have it be fun? There's a cute girl over there at the produce aisle. Go over there and talk to her. I mean, you know, try and be flirtatious. And once you take a more, it's not a chore. It's not you're charging the beaches of Normandy, but you go in and Troy, I think you're going to agree with me on this. Being humor and flirtatious, being playful is probably the most direct and quick way to success, as opposed to like being tense and this is a chore or a job. It's like, you know, I like, oh, you schmo. When you went in, oh, I fell in love with you a little bit back there, just a bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you sly dog. But you know, that's fun. And even if the girl doesn't want to go, she had a boyfriend or whatever, she's going to giggle and laugh. And all you did was put a smile on the girl's face, unless she's like really mean, which those girls do exist. But I don't know. It's just kind of like, hey, how you doing? And like, yeah, nice shoes, you know, like,
yeah,
you want to drink at 9 a.m. in the morning, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And as Bruce says here, this is a good line: charging the breaches of Hormondy. Which is quite nice. But yeah, it should be fun. It should be fun. And I do like that line. Oh, I just fell in love with you a little bit over there. I just saw you at the grocery aisle. And
I watch all the men in the future. That's all the lines. It's gonna be like, let's go, Brandon. It's gonna be, I fell in love with you a little bit.
People,
over there.
they want those little easily intelligible sound bites, and so that they can either ridicule that or they can like try to use it and fall flat on their face, kind of thing, because they don't understand like the application of it. And that's another aspect I think that a lot of people don't really grasp when it comes to game, really, is that there has to be sort of calibration when you're having that conversation. It's like, women love a guy who's like funny, right? They want the dude who has a little bit of humor, is witty kind of thing, who can actually carry on a conversation, and seems like, you know, there's this emotional association with that guy. But the guy has to be witty, he has to be quick, you know, he has to be sharp, you know, fast on his feet kind of thing. And that doesn't come naturally to a lot of guys, particularly if these guys are like introverts in the first place. But there's a congruency and calibration, I think, are the two things that most guys like lose, particularly on social media. Because when you read, the Doritos test, right? You know, or it's just like, you know, are those any good? That sounds like really corny and stupid, and everybody goes, oh man, that would never work, blah, blah, blah. When you're there, the reason why it will work is because everybody on planet Earth has had Doritos before. That's the hook. But you don't.
That's the dope.jpg.
Because you're not there. You're not in that set. You're not in that emotional state. You're not in that frame of mind, and you don't know what to follow up with because you are a literalist spurg.
Well, and here's another thing. Like, let's use that. I just fell in love with you a little bit. What do you do next? Well, the girl's going to tell you what to do next. Listen to her. Watch her. She's going to, and you already have this because you've been alive, presumably, for at least 2 decades. So you've interacted with humans before. You are unconsciously picking up on body language. It's kind of the same thing. Well, I hit the ball this way over to the guy on the opposite side of the tennis court. What do I do now? Don't worry. He'll tell you. He'll hit it back.
Thrust, parry, repost.
Right, this guy
repost.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, this is the part I can't figure out. So everybody's got something now, right? Everybody's got ADHD. Everybody's introverted. I am pretty sure I've had ADHD. I have a hard time focusing on a single thing, all the standard stuff. I'm also an introvert. I had parties at my place back when I was in the military. I had to hide from my party for a bit and just recharge in a dark room, so I get it. You got all these talents. Why the hell are you not treating this like a game of Mega Man 2 on the Xbox or the NES, or just to min-max it? I'm going to say some things because I'm bored in social situations and I want to be entertained. Yeah, it's going to come across as funny, sometimes a little edgy. Sometimes it might piss somebody off. But I've had things, and obviously you've seen my Twitter. You know I have no problems pissing people off, where I say something that I know will bother somebody, but I'm so entertained by the fact that I'm doing this cheeky thing, the other person doesn't even get mad at me. So I don't understand these guys who are literalist spurgs, but refuse to go out and enjoy themselves at the, playfully at the expense of other people just to see what'll happen. Just like I always say, it beats jerking off in your living room. You got to do something with those 80 years you're on Earth, and there's only so much time for Minecraft.
Yes. Yeah, I used to have that attitude actually going out at night, going to clubs and things like that. It was because the good thing about nightclubs and bars is that because people have had a few drinks and whatever else, there's a pretty anarchic kind of vibe there anyway. So you can kind of get away with messing around a bit and just creating a bit of havoc. And that's actually really fun. And you may as well just for a few hours go out and just be that person who just goes and does some crazy things just for the hell of it, right? And just see
what else
happens.
are you going to do with your night?
Exactly. Well, sit with your dick in your hand, basically, watching Rule Zero.
I'm just confused. Ryan, jerking off in your living room?
It's a reference from my book. I used to say, I got bored in grocery store lineups and shit. So my girl and I had a game where I would just randomly throw out that line after she talked about something being entertaining, just to see what the person in front of us would do, to pretend like they're not paying attention. Or she would call me Uncle Touchy Bad Touch. It's just it's something that it's more interesting. If somebody's gonna have a
the part where Jiku is there, he's like, but I'm not myself. Then that is the crux of this whole thing, really.
Yeah. Who else can you be?
Exactly, and that's where you want to. Okay, so this is the heart of inner game, internalizing game, whatever you want to call it. Is it has to become second nature. It has to become who you are. And I think that's what scares a lot of guys, because too many guys get wrapped up in wax on, wax off, and it becomes an act. It's not about the actual karate. It's actually about just the wax on, wax off. And it becomes this sort of act or this role that you have to play, and that once you get past the uncomfortable part of game, that you can let your hair down and just we can finally be real and just chill, and we can just be honest and cool with each other and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, you have to be the game. You have to have it as your second nature. You have to internalize what the game is, to what game pick, whatever it is. Your interactions, learning's really social skills have to become who you are. So that you, when I talk about mental point of origin and having it get to the point where when you're faced with a decision, you are the first person that you think about, rather than your mom or your wife or your, whatever, anybody outside of yourself is the mental point of origin. When you can do that and it becomes second nature, that's when you are internalizing that. It's have you ever heard, I'm sure you guys have heard this, when you're learning a foreign language, if you're learning Spanish in school, when you dream in Spanish, that's when you've internalized that language. That's when you can sort of get it, that this is actually becoming part of my internal software or whatever else. That's the degree of internalization of inner game, or of whatever you want to call it. That has
Rolo, speaking Spanish isn't who I am. That would make me fake.
Yes.
Not authentically
I'm
Spanish.
Not really a Spaniard.
Well, to introduce some science to back up what Rolo's saying, any kind of rote rehearsal, anything that you've learned, riding a bike or a tennis swing, certainly dancing, what they find out is when you're learning it, you got to use your frontal cortex and practice it. But what ends up happening is your brain will start put stuff in the stem.
Yes.
Just on automatic, you don't think beat, heart, breathe. You're just, it's on rote rehearsal. And then that becomes part of your background operating daemons, if anyone wants to get really nerdy and geeky. You got to get it to that point. And you're not losing your sentience. You're not losing who you are. All your actions are filtered through who you are. But you got to get to that point. You are not thinking about it, and it just becomes second nature. And that the only way to do that is through practice. Like, I don't sit and think about my steps in tango. Like, that's why I can talk. Another, to give you an analogy, is if like you can do ballroom dancing and talk to your dance partner at the same time, that means you're not even thinking about your footwork. It's just automatic. Mm-hmm. And then, not to brag, but then you can really start getting some girls if you can talk and dance at the same time.
Oh, hubba.
Yeah, well, let me tell you about Gertrude and the Foxtrot. She really liked me. But yeah, but you got to get to that point. You're not worried about it anymore, and it is just part of who you are, who you've become.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely true, because a very simple switch that I suppose went off in my head back in the day, and it was reinforced by learning about game, was making yourself the prize as opposed to the girl. And this is the classic thing that guys will always do wrong. It's this supplicating to the girl, oh, she's so beautiful, she's so far above me, she's like an angel, and I'm just this schlub.
She's a debt-ridden girl who lives at home with a sociology degree.
This is an issue. This is an issue that Cappy obviously doesn't have, but many somewhat younger guys do have this, like, oh my god, she's like an angel, and I'm just this, whatever, right? And flipping around that mindset and just walking around acting as if it's a bit like, well, what if I just flip that? What if, like, just as a thought experiment, or almost like as an improvisation thing, or like a drama class thing? What if just for one night I went to the club and I flipped that around and I walked around as if I was the shit for a change? How would people react to me? Surprisingly, people react quite well to it, because guess what? In the main, people buy into what you project. So if you walk around like you're the shit, people are going to tend to buy into that, including women. Now, of course, they will test you, and other guys in the venue may test you as well, because, there's always that sort of, like, they'll scratch away at the surface and try and see what you're made of. But you are going to get traction with it. And then when you keep doing it, you get a bit of traction. You get some girls who, like, think you're a bit cocky, a bit funny. They laugh at your jokes. They maybe, you get a make out, or, a girl goes home with you or whatever. Then you keep doing it. Then it becomes part of your personality, and your personality changes. So now you're a guy who walks around as if he has inherent value. Do you see what I mean? Now, yes, of course, caveat, you need to be doing the work as well. But this kind of stuff, just simple little mental twists like that, really, really changes up the way that people react to you in the social sphere.
There's an episode of Seinfeld where, like, George Costanza is like, he's this complete, balding, short guy who never gets laid kind of stuff. And he at one point in one episode, he realizes, maybe I should just do the opposite of what I would naturally do. And so he starts doing that. And he starts acting like completely the opposite of what his natural instincts would be. And he finds he's successful with women. He's successful in business. And he gets what's called, I finally have hand, right? Which means is shorthand for, like, dominance kind of thing. And because he, like, basically did a 180 and just did the opposite of everything he thought he should do, then suddenly he's this badass, and suddenly he has this sort of irrational self-confidence. And it turns the whole thing right. It's the funniest thing, because this is like in the mid 90s or whatever. And it's really kind of proto game. Like, it works. Right. And it's funny, and you're laughing at it. And of course, at the end of the episode, he goes back to being the schlub that he was, because that's an act. That's not who he really is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how much is it about how you act? I mean, Sterling, I was curious to ask you, actually, because you know some pretty, well, you're a high-value guy yourself, as obviously everybody on this panel is, but you know some pretty high-value dudes. Indeed. You know some pretty high-value dudes. Obviously, we know, a couple of infamous brothers, is a couple of them. But also, I mean, I've seen you hanging out with Jay Waller. I haven't spoken to Jay myself yet, but he seems like a solid, I mean, Rollo knows him as well. He seems like a solid guy, obviously incredibly well put together. But in your experience with people like that, how much of it is, okay, he is objectively good looking, he's jacked, he's like whatever else, wears nice suits, and how much is it, yes, but he's also acting in a certain way? And I suppose to put it the other way around, if you had somebody like, I don't know, one of the Tates or Jay Waller or somebody, and they were they had all the same attributes, but they were acting in a very self-deprecating way, would that affect how people reacted to them? Because I think it would, but
they wouldn't act the same way if they hadn't done the work they've done in their life. You know, it's like repetition and putting the reps in, like John stated, like reps build confidence, and confidence builds reps build results, and results build confidence. So these guys are the way they are, and a bunch of us on this panel are the way we are, is because we put the reps in, we put the work in, we've seen results, and it's a self-fulfilling feedback loop. It's like, oh, I am that guy who can pull a girl home from a club. Oh, I am the guy who gets like, you know, who has a date lineup every single night of the week, or whatever it is. And that it's there's a universe. I think my friend Tristan says this all the time. There's a universe where like he's a fat bum who plays video games all day. Right. But he doesn't. What is he doing day in, day out that reinforces his mentality and his attitude? Well, he's working out all the time. He's presenting himself well, dressing well. He's talking to girls all the time. Like, okay, that's going back to the very beginning of this, you know, episode. You were like, you put the reps in, and that reinforces the correct mentality. Like it's like the training wheels. No matter what, all these guys are actually, they're not just sitting around magically being confident.
Yes.
You know, they're actually doing things. They're actually living their life, and they're doing things that reinforce that confidence and reinforce that attitude, reinforce the I don't give a fuck attitude. I mean, that's that whole George Costanza thing, the Seinfeld thing, of where he does the complete opposite of whatever he used to do. Doing this is something that I challenge every guy watching this show right now to try this next time you're on a date with a girl and it's obvious you're really not into her. Like, if you can tell pretty much straight away that this ain't going to work, like she's maybe catfished you a little bit or something like that, right? Take that opportunity to just stand up and be like, sorry, this ain't going to work for me. And kind of be a bit, not rude, but like end the date abruptly.
Yeah.
Like, because most guys won't do that. Most guys will be polite and waste your own goddamn time sitting there with a girl and maybe buy her a drink or two, sitting there with a girl who ain't going to, you don't even want to fucking hang out with. So actually, like, but that little experiment there of just getting up and like leaving the date is going to reinforce the mentality of my time is valuable and I have standards. And that is a really, really strong mental frame for any guy to have. It's an attractive mental frame for yourself, right? So there's a little bit of like a practical thing that you guys can do for everyone who's watching here.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's having sort of boundaries, isn't it, really, and self-respect for your time, I think.
And I've gone down this thought more recently as the economist that I am, and I really need to, while we're here, it's a great platform. You do need opportunity cost. Now, when you're a young, dumb 18-year-old kid, you have no opportunity cost. Now, your opportunity cost, actually, you do. It's going to school or getting some kind of training or the military or trade school or whatever else. But if you actually like, man, I make you, let's say you're making $100 an hour, you'll be very acutely aware of how much time you're wasting on a date or how much time you're wasting to a girl who's like not responding to you in a playful and flirtatious manner. And again, it will be subconscious, but you'd be kind of like, yeah, I'm cutting bait and going. And that would show through in your behavior. She'll pick up on a subconscious level as well, where it's like, yeah, this isn't doing it, ba, 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 ba. Almost like Sterling said, you're not rude, but you're just kind of a little bit more curt and like, yeah, you know what? I got to get going. Yeah, it was nice talking to you. I'll see you later. Oh, wait, which rarely happens. But having that opportunity cost, like I could be doing that, dude, this is a waste of my time, will put you at ease. You won't worry about it because you're going to be more worried about like, there's this project I got to work on. This girl's not cutting it for me. And then you'll be just like, all right, see you later, bye. And what a lot of you guys are worried about is rejection and fear and being judged. You won't care because you're the one doing the judging. Not that you're trying to preemptively judge this girl. You're not, again, the girl is not your focus. Your career, your profession, you are your focus. And so that's another way to kind of bypass this performance anxiety as you're approaching girls.
What a strange mental point of origin you're speaking of right now. Is there a concept for this?
I do not think so.
Interesting. I'm going to have to listen to more of this.
Troy, let me ask, because you're the pro here, just to show everyone, do you still, when, you know, in your seasoned years here, do you not still get a little bit of a, I don't want to say fear, but just kind of, you know, like before you go and approach a gal?
Yeah, of course. I don't think it ever really goes away. I don't think it goes away entirely. It certainly does. It certainly eases off after a while. You know, after the first 10,000 approaches are the worst. After that, it gets a little bit easier. But
that's a flex.
No, I mean, but yeah, of course. I mean, you know, and if you don't socialize for a bit, if you've been in a lockdown or something, and you haven't socialized for a bit, then you go out, you're a bit rusty. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the same crippling fear that you might have as a real newbie who's never done it before. But yeah, I think everybody's, it's just natural, isn't it? But
that's all, yeah, I want to point that out. We're all human. It's not like we're robots and we just go and execute these commands. It never goes away. So, don't delusionally aim for this state of mind where you're never going to be afraid of talking to a girl. There will always be that little, but that kind of is what makes it fun a little bit too.
Yeah. Here's one for Rollo and Ryan. No fat scrapers in a game.
Boy.
You're fucking hilarious.
I'm in on this one this year. I'm so glad we have Sterling for this year's show. Oh boy,
it's no fap season again. So welcome to the chat.
Yeah.
Levitating above the rest of us over here. Jesus Christ.
I can confirm that I haven't fapped at least for the duration of this show. So I think my inner game is
in your living room.
Yeah, exactly. So my inner game is pretty good right now. But one of the guys, we taught this guy over in Russia, this guy called King Cole, who's this Indian dude. He's training to be a doctor over there. He's a student. He's archetypally sort of hasn't got a great deal of inherent value. He's quite short. He's about 5'4". He's got quite a, he's not particularly built or ripped. He's got, not financially, rich or anything like that as yet, because he's still a student. He's still training. And this guy had some of the strongest in a game we'd ever seen, because he just basically went around and he was just, regardless of what happened, he was just unfazed. And he would go into the next approach. He'd approach a girl. She might reject him or whatever. He was completely unfazed. He'd just go, okay, fine. And just go into the next one. Go into the next one with the same level of enthusiasm, the same level of, aplomb that he did all along. And his state would never vary. It was really incredible. And me and Tusk were actually really inspired by this dude. You know what I mean? And it's being able to do that, because then, guess what? He did then start to get some good reactions from women. He did start to get some positive feedback from girls, and he got dates and things, And so you get all of these people who are sort of crying on black pill channels and things, going, "Oh man, it can't be done. You can't, go out and about. If you're not a certain way, you're not going to get success." But the mindset side of things is just so key.
They just want to jerk off in their living room.
Exactly. Yeah. But they can't at the moment. They can't at the moment because they are in we are in no fap season, so you're not allowed.
Well, I'll explain. Here's a just sort of tag something on to Sterling's point. There's guys get upset, or they get they have approach anxiety, I think is what it was. As you guys know, I'm writing a 5th book right now. It's on game, but it's not a how to, it's a why this stuff works.
So it's going to be as deep as the Mariana Trench again.
Yeah, well, okay. No, not. I'm writing it at 8th grade understanding level, so it should be along. Well, I don't know, maybe 4th grade is about your speed.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to make it as bonehead easy as possible. And actually, it's going along very. It's much easier to write. However, I should explain this, is that one of the reasons why you get approach anxiety, or every guy, and to some degree gets approach anxiety, is because that's hardwired into sort of the male psyche. It's like part of our evolutionary firmware to be hesitant to approach, because I'm sorry, Mr. Wizard here, but in our ancestral past and our evolutionary history, we lived in much smaller sort of tribal organizations. For much of human evolution, we didn't live in tribes any bigger than 100 or 150 people. So when a guy is going to sort of make a move on another girl that's in the same tribe, everybody knows what's going on. Like everybody's, is a relative or a cousin or whoever, of these guys. So especially if it's an out group, like if it's from one out group into an in group kind of thing, there is that hesitancy right there, because there was actually a fear of actually being beat to hell by her brother, by her dad, by anybody who's on her in group kind of like tribal association. So we have this kind of instinctive approach anxiety fear for going in and actually trying to chat up a girl. Now extrapolate that into a global sense, where it's like now we can't figure out how to ask Susie out at in high school, and then blow that up into, okay, now we're in college, there's more people around, blow that up into sort of a global sexual marketplace, and you can understand just how that anxiety increases exponentially as a result of that. So that's why you get approach. That's why most guys get approach anxiety, and it's actually something that I think is one of the key elements of game, is to get over the fear of rejection, because that is something that's been sort of hardwired into you. It's like hitting the brakes on the car when you're in a skid. You have to get over that fear of rejection. And I think it was Royce who said it was like irrational self-confidence. And that, or what Cappy was just saying a minute ago, it's not so much domain dependence, but it is this need to get over that fear of rejection kind of thing, where you have the PUAs used to call it the 3-second rule, go in within 3 seconds or don't make the approach at all, because you'll just choke when you're in the middle of it, because you're like, oh, I don't know what she's doing. If you're too much in your head, it's sort of getting out of your head to the point where you can go and make that approach. And that is something that has to be taught from the very beginning. You have to know that you've got to get out of your head to get into sort of, I don't want to call it a Zen state, but you sort of have to get into this idea that you're going to go and you're going to do this. And Troy, you probably remember this. Do you remember when like old school PUAs, I think it was in the Mystery Method day of Venusian Arts, maybe RSD did this as well, is they would get the group of guys together, and the object of that night was to go get blown out by as many girls as possible to over that fear of rejection. So it's like you're not you're not over invested in making the closing at that point. And it's I'm blanking on what the word is actually. What is it? Outcome independence. That's what Kathy is talking about. To become outcome independent. So you go out there with the direct intent. The practice is this. And it seems like stupid and counterintuitive to most guys like online right now, but it had a function. Is you would go out there, and it was a competition amongst the guys to go out to a club or a bar or whatever else and get rejected as many times as they can. And the guy who got rejected the most was actually the winner and won something as a result, because the exercise was to get you over that fear of approaching.
Yeah, exactly, and that really, really works. By the way, that actually going out and just going for broke and saying, right, listen, I'm going to burn the club down. I'm going to, not literally, guys. I'm going to just like go out there. I'm just going to get rejected as many times as I can. And you know what? What tends to happen is that actually you get rejected a few times, and then you have a good interaction because you're on that natural high. You've got the momentum, and people start responding to that well. But got a special guest now, briefly, Mr. King Cole, who was in the chat, is with us. So I'm going to add him to the stream now. So Cole, good to see you, man. So Cole is a dude. Well, Cole, do you want to introduce yourself? So if you tell the guys how old you are and where you're based as a little intro.
I'm 23.
23.
I'm going to be 23, 24. I'm going to be 24. I live in Russia right now. I'm from India, and I study here. I'm a student, and I have been in game for 5 years. I have read. I'm so glad to be with Rolo. I'm such a big fan, man.
Here we go.
Yeah, get to know him first. You'll change your opinion.
Yeah. I'm a fan.
I'm a swell guy.
Here we go. So listen, so Cole, firstly, have you fapped today?
What the?
All right. No, stop. Would you say, Cole? Would you say you are
wax on, wax off?
you're based in Russia. we met in St. Petersburg, and me and Tuss trained you in St. Petersburg. And by the way, guys, the videos are all on my channel, so you can watch like loads of videos of Cole and me approaching. And we had some crazy times over there, didn't we? It was great. It was a great vibe. But would you say, just completely objectively, would you say that you are naturally regarded as a high value guy in Russia by Russian women?
Naturally, I won't say that. No.
Okay. But what I experienced with you, and as we said to you at the time, you are one of the most. You've got some of the best dinner game I've ever seen, because literally you went out and completely smashed it. And even if you were getting rejections, you would just keep going. You would talk to the next girl. So can you talk a little bit about that and just how you've got that mindset that keeps you going when other guys would probably just give up?
Yeah, it's just like I have watched James videos many times, and after this, it's about rejection too. I get rejected many times, and after that, I just like, if I want something, why am I taking no's? If even if I'm taking no's, someone saying no to me, why does it matter? It doesn't matter, because there will be someone who will say yes to me, and if I just keep going, and if I just be relentless and just focus on what I want and not focusing on rejection and haters and what other people say, I will get results. And that's just basically what I think.
Exactly. And I mean, how were you always like that, or did you learn to be like that? Because it really is.
Yeah. I was very introverted, and after getting into game, it took me like at least 2 years to get rid of this negative mindset and taking everything to heart.
Okay, cool. And you ended up getting dates over there, and we were on an instant date together, weren't we, with a couple of girls in St. Petersburg. And it like I said, we drew a lot of inspiration from you, because you remember that night I talked about the other day when we were walking down the street, and I was saying to you, actually, do you know what? I'm not really on form. I'm not feeling it. I'm kind of just not, the spark's not there today. And you actually said to me, no, you're on form. You're doing well. Carry on, didn't you? And it's that positive mindset. Really impressive, man.
And after that, after we had that conversation, you opened you said hi to the next 2 girls, and we went on and studied with them again the second time.
Exactly.
It was amazing.
Exactly.
Sean, can I introduce the math, because that's what everybody loves?
Please, please.
Well,
okay.
You and I had this conversation. I came out with that book, The Book of Numbers, and it was an actuarial analysis of your chances of success with women. And I won't lie, the first 7/8 of it is pretty dark and very black pill, because that's what the numbers are. But then you said, okay, but did you not conclude that there were some tangible items you could take to drastically improve your chances? And that's the last chapter of that book. And Cole is exactly the evidence and the proof of that there, where if the more approaches you do, the more effort you put into it, you drastically improve your chances.
Yes.
And so everyone is looking for this magic formula, this where you just sit and you press a button and a girl is delivered to you by an Uber Eats driver. It doesn't work that way. And Cole, whatever physical handicaps he might have, he's short. He's in a foreign country. It's an away game. He doesn't have home field advantage. He is going to have much higher chances by one simple, boring fact. He approaches more girls, volume. And maybe his success rate won't be as much as, a guy who's 6 foot or whatever else, but he stands a lot higher chances of some guy sitting on his ass at home.
Yeah, exactly. And then in a sense, I suppose you could say, from the mindset perspective, you might as well have a good mindset while you're doing it, right? Because each individual rejections don't mean anything. It doesn't really matter, because all you're bothered about is, okay, I want to get to that goal, right? So, Cole, is that how you kind of think of it?
Yes, of course. And also, I had this realization in like 2 years ago too, that when guys think about rejection, they think like every girl is same and every girl just wants this 6'4" guy, and that's not what it is. There are so many girls who have these thinking they want different type of guys. They are in different part of life where maybe they had a breakup and they just want someone to hang out with.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't know before you go in what her circumstances are. I think maybe somebody else can remind me, but it might have been Mystery who said, you never know a woman's physical type physical preference until you go in and make the approach. And that's very true as well, because sometimes you'll see a girl and you think, oh, she must just like 6'7", ripped guys with who are like this or X, Y, and Z. Not necessarily the case. So you've got to go in and just give it a go, haven't you?
Well, who was the one? Was it Rolo that was this quote where it was, "Don't give her a reason not to fuck you; she'll figure it out on her own."
Right. That's actually it's an iron rule, Tomasi. Thank you very much.
That's the one. That's the one. I love how he sets you up and you knock him down.
Yeah. What is it? It's never.
Come on, it's your rule. You got this.
Always let a woman figure out why she won't fuck you. Don't do it for her. Yeah. And that's what most guys will do, is they'll blow themselves out before that's one of the reasons why guys don't approach. They think that she's out of their league. They think that they're not. Even having the league mentality is you. If you have a league mentality, you are not your own mental point of origin. Right there. Mm-hmm. So let me ask Cole this really quickly, though, because I'm always curious when it comes to like guys who are like of Asian or Indian descent, because a lot of black pill doomer guys come from that sort of demographic. Right. And I've seen lots of videos about this. In fact, one of the things I've always wanted to do is sort of like get inside the head, I guess, of Indian, but particularly Indian guys, but also Asian guys, because they're very gloom and doom about dating women in their own race, in their own ethnicity or whatever else, because Asian women or Indian women technically don't really want to get with guys who are of the same race in a global sexual marketplace. Some people will disagree with me on that, John from MLD, but I see this all the time. So let me ask Cole this. Cole, how tall are you?
I'm 5'4".
5'4", okay, and you're killing it. See that? That's and so I would presume most of the women in Russia are taller than you are.
Yes.
Okay, and so what's your conversion rate? What's your what's your success? You're having good success with women who are taller than you?
Before I went to Petersburg and met James and Troy, I went on a date with this girl who was 6'1". So
I'll tell you the other thing about Cole. I'll tell you the other thing about Cole though, right? Because when me and James Tusk met him for the first time, we were before we met him, obviously we didn't know anything about him very much, apart from you'd been in contact with James. And James said to me, oh, we've got this guy, we're going to go and meet him, we're going to do some training with him, whatever. So didn't really know what to expect. We turned up, right? And it was like probably about 2 p.m, something like that. And Cole turns up and he said, listen, guys, I was really excited to come out and do training with you. So in order to prepare myself for the session I'm going to do with you guys this afternoon, I've already done 40 approaches. So he'd already done 40 approaches in the morning before he even met us to go out approaching. And I mean, you've got all these people, and again, really, we've got to bring this back to mindset. So it's like, that's impressive to have that mindset to do that. But also as well, it's just putting in the bloody reps, isn't it? Most guys don't even do 40 cold approaches in their whole life.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I would laugh if he got the 40 and then like 30 of successful. He's like, I don't actually need you guys anymore.
Yeah.
Like, damn it.
Exactly. Exactly. And welcome to the stream, gentlemen.
The champ is here. The champ is here.
No need to break out the trumpets yet. I'm on vacation mode.
Who's this guy?
I went to a Chinese restaurant today, and one of the fortune cookies I opened says, do something for the poor and be nice to them. So I wanted to come say hi to Aaron Clary. Fulfill the destiny of the fortune cookie there.
Hey, I got 30% off Perkins the other day. I saved my coupon. It was a good deal.
Oh man.
Good stuff. So how you doing, John? You all right? How's things?
I'm good. I've been on funny that you're speaking on Inner Game. I've been on like a sabbatical, just working on myself, and haven't been streaming much. Did one stream to promote King Dre's course, and I've just been enjoying death, like James Bond said in Skyfall. Doing some work, working on myself, and the more work I'm able to do on myself, the more I'm able to convey the results to the members of the audience who watch us and help enrich the lives of all those men. So it's good. I've just been taking off. I'll be back in December. But yeah.
Yay. Good
just
stuff.
Chilling.
Good stuff, man. Well, it's good to see you. Okay, so what else have we got on in a game then? Really, I mean, it's just like it seems to me that. Okay, well, John, let me ask you this, right? Because you obviously you help a lot of guys, you teach a lot of different guys and stuff. To what proportion of them would you say the issue is with what we might call inner game?
Oh, 95%.
Right. Okay. And I
think that's the biggest thing that's overlooked in this entire space is the psychological aspect of guys actually suffering and why they're suffering. Like cold showers are not going to fix it. No FAP November is not going to fix it. No porn is not going to fix it. Like,
what about making my bed?
Making your bed is not going to fix it because the bottom line is like it's a larger problem, to be honest with you, but it is a psychological problem, and especially coming out of America because it's like I don't think a lot of people notice because they live in America, so like they live in the land of Walmart golems and like fat women and broken homes that they think it's the norm. But
You've
like
been to Rapid City too?
When you come to like, you know, when you come to places that are a little bit more family oriented, right? Places in Asia, India, Vietnam, Korea, Japan, right? And where family is actually important, right? Family is viewed as a burden in America. And, you know, all these chicks like, I don't want to have a kid. I want to be slave to a fucking corporation or whatever. It's a chain reaction that's been happening since we've introduced this like no fault divorce thing, because broken families are raising broken children who become broken adults who go out and have broken relationships and create broken children. And that's what's happening with the United States right now. And like mental disease is like a norm. Like people in America don't seem to realize like it's not normal to walk around and see people so fucking fat. It's not normal. And that is one byproduct of a broken mind. It's not normal for men and women to not get along. It's not normal for women to hate men. It's not normal for men to hate women. And all this shit comes from up here, which we label as inner game. But that's the biggest problem. That's why I dedicated an entire month on my channel, Inner Game July, where we all focused on inner game. The biggest improvements I've ever had, because I've gone to therapy, I've done hypnotherapy, I've done traditional therapy, and it has done wonders for me. I am living the dream. I'm a self-made mental porn origin man, completely done on my own through the information I've acquired through the manosphere. Like I am living proof that a guy can come from a completely fucked up background, psychologically abused, verbally abused, physically abused, you name it, happened to me, to becoming self-made, self-paid, free, and living an above average lifestyle, have money, muscles, game. I'm living the dream. Guys would kill to have my lifestyle. I am fucking living the dream. Like this pandemic has not affected me. My quality of life has gone up over the pandemic, to be honest with everybody. But it all started with taking a rough, hard look in the mirror and realizing the problem lies with me. And where is my problem? My problem is up here. This is why you see all these guys who are gurus and they figured it out. They get all the money, they get all the women, and guess what? They still have at the end of the day. They're still empty and broken inside. That's why you have all these people dropping off and converting to Jesus right now. Rouge, all these people. I mean, because they're still empty inside. They're still broken inside. They're just good at marketing. They're just good at, you know, putting out pre-recorded tweets and be like, oh yeah, you know, don't masturbate and fuck single mothers and, you know, take cold showers and, you know, get on TRT or whatever fucking cope they have to put out that day. But all these are, if you're not fixed up here, I mean, that's great. All that stuff is fantastic advice. But if your inner game isn't fixed, then nothing's going to help, because you're still trying to fill the emptiness and brokenness inside you with external validation, which never, ever, ever works. That's why you see people, this way you see girls, right, go from broken, destroying one relationship after another, jumping from dick to dick, because inside this girl is traumatized and she's fucking broken. But as long as she doesn't stop and fix the brokenness, she's going to just jump from dick and dick and dick and destroy her life. And that's what's happening right now. A lot of modern chicks. So yeah, inner game is absolutely, absolutely important. It is the most important thing in anything you do in life. If you want to make money, make muscles, learn game, hold frame, whatever it is, inner game is where it all starts. And if you don't focus on that, you're fucked.
I also introduced the concept. If you have inner game, you're just at peace with yourself. Forget girls or anything else. You just, I remember, John, when you were fat and ugly, and now you're just ugly. But I mean, we got to hand it to him. Like, you're just so much happier and relaxed and calm and chill. Girls are not. It's just, but you took the actions. And I hate paying you a compliment. I hate it. And I don't know how you could be truly happy without Perkins in Japan, but it's a handicapped life. It's a crippled life.
Well, that's a lot coming from you paying.
It's a good point.
A lot of guys have to unlearn what they've learned. And that's the hard. I think that's one of the hardest things for guys to do. I think you even have to unlearn things on your own before you'll even take like the red pill seriously. I think you have to unlearn certain, and that's why I always say, the guys who come to, like, we don't advertise the red pill awareness. We don't advertise in the manosphere. The guys find us because they get to the point where they're like, okay, what I'm doing is not working. Why is that? Let me go look online. Oh, I found the rational male. Oh, I found the red pill community. Oh, I found the manosphere. Oh, I found, so I'm going to follow these guys and we'll watch their shows and everything else. You have to be at a point in your life, or I don't say a point of crisis, but a point of trauma where you're open to unlearning what you've already been conditioned for. That's why I always refer to the blue pill in terms of blue pill conditioning, because it's taught you to put other things besides yourself as your mental point of origin. And in fact, we have an educational industrial complex to do just that with guys. So when women start complaining about, oh, there's no good guys, or all guys are all manginas today, or all guys are all feminized, it's like, that's the result of teaching guys from the youngest age to put anything outside of themselves as their mental point of origin. Usually that's women or potential girlfriends or mom or whatever else, instead of making themselves the first thing that they think about. And there's I think if you're ever going to have inner game, I think if you're ever going to get to the point where you're even really willing to listen to the concepts, you have to unlearn certain aspects that you've been taught, or you got to get to the point of like crisis where you're ready to listen to those things. And that's really hard for a lot of guys to do, because they want to cling to that conditioning like it's a security blanket. If I don't do this, then I won't have a great life. If I don't go to college and get this degree, I won't get that job. If I don't do these things, if I don't supplicate, if I'm not a simp by order of degree for women, then I'm not going to have a wife. I'm not going to reproduce. I'm not going to have whatever. And so there's this ego investment into that conditioning that has said, just do these things and trust the process and things will happen. Well, the process is fucked up. And for you to get over the point where you can come to the point where you realize that the process is fucked up, you have to unlearn certain things about yourself. And that's really hard. Like from what John was just saying a minute ago, is like a lot of these guys have issues like, social issues, social anxiety, psychological things that you have to unlearn if you're ever going to get to the point where you could practice game and you could actually internalize that game in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And John MLD actually brought up a really good sort of side of this, because we've been sort of concentrating on I don't want to say superficial, but it's been a little bit like, okay, do you have the right mindset to meet girls and stuff like that? And that's important. But of course, underlying that is your mental health itself. And a lot of that stuff is very deep. A lot of that stuff, as we all know, a lot of that stuff goes back to childhood. It goes back to childhood trauma, serious things that have happened to you in your life. Have you dealt with those things? And if you haven't, I would say you need to look into finding help with that stuff. And there's a variety of things. There's a variety of things you can do.
I don't think you can find help for it. That's the weirdest thing. I think you have to do it yourself. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to make this an episode about fuck the APA, but I'm not a Scientologist. But like, mental health is essentially doing the same thing that Rollo was saying education is doing. It's appealing to women because women love to talk. They love to do talk therapy, and each session books you enough of a paycheck. Now, you build a lot of convoluted theory around why it's not the case, but that's just the way it is. So for guys, if you're depressed as a guy, they'll tell you to talk it through. They'll give you a coping strategy. I know the military provided it for me anyways, long story short. And that's not how guys fix things like depression. Depression for us is largely environmental. It's because something's not going our way and we feel powerless to change it, or the rules are stacked against us. So there's actions that you can take to fix it. But a shrink's not going to tell you to go to the gym, because going to the gym doesn't get them $200 an hour.
Yeah.
A shrink will tell you not to hate women because anger is a bad emotion. Meanwhile, that anger is what's motivating you to go get shit done and fix your situation. So yeah, there's a lot of great research there about it. I mean, we talked about avoidant attachment styles. You want to get to like a comfortable attachment style, to the point where strangers don't fill you with anxiety and meat, to the point where you don't have issues that stem from a childhood, for example. If every time you walk to a woman, you got slapped down, bullied in high school because you were the short kid, then yeah, approaching a girl, it taps into that same fucking history. Or you get abused by family members, so you have intimacy issues. You sort that shit out. But unfortunately, there is no place for men to go, because it all caters to women, because women talk the loudest. We innately
May I interrupt on that?
I'll say there are. Listen, there's a lot of guys in the community that do that. Paul, for one, Apex Mindset does a lot of fucking. I've been working privately with Paul recently. He does a lot of EMDR, is a type of therapy. I don't know if you're familiar with that. He does a lot of hypnotherapy and does a lot of talk therapy. There's a growing movement of masculine red pill based therapy out there. Ryan is 1,000% correct. The mainstream therapy out there is completely trash. But I will tell you, from what I've experienced teaching these guys these last couple of years, doing it on your own is the fastest way to fucking it up. I mean, I think that you do need to find a good amount of people, like, people like, hypnosisformen.com, apexmindset.com, innermasculine.com, Proud Masculine. Joe from Proud Masculine is a really good therapist as well. These are all guys that actually do talk about the things that you should be doing. Like what Ryan is saying, like, go to the gym, make sure you're eating clean. Also, make sure you're not stalking your ex's social media, and make sure you're not listening to bad music that's going to soy music that's going to reinforce negative behaviors. I don't want to tell guys to do it on their own, because even me, like whatever, a leader of men or whatever the hell you want to call me, I'm not doing it on my own. I'm doing a lot with the resources available here at Rule Zero. But yeah, if you're going to go to the mainstream, like the APA, those kind of people, they're just going to talk you up and drug you up and send you on your way. Because at the end of the day, they don't care, and they don't really know what the real struggles men goes through. But that's what we're building with the guys here on Rule Zero. I mean, every one of these guys will tell you, good practical advice. Even if you watch Cappy's channel, I love watching Cappy's channel, because I think as a philosopher, he makes a lot of good points, and he talks about, you really don't need a lot of money, have enough, but as long as you're okay with yourself and you're content and you have peace in your life, which is really important, right? Stop with the consumerism. Like, stop thinking that if you have enough money to then if you buy a Lambo, then you're going to be happy. No, you got to be happy now with where you are, because then you're just going to be rich and miserable. And then you have more access to resources that you can fuck your life up with, to be honest with you. That's why you see these celebrities kill themselves, because they're fucking empty and miserable inside.
Too young, too fast.
Too much, too young, too fast. And they have all these resources available to them, but they're a broken person. Like, it's like a form of kids with dynamite as well. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't want to tell guys to go out there and do it on their own, because I tried to do it on my own and I wasted a lot of time, which is the most precious asset we have. And, Paul from Apex Mindset is like, unfortunately, he's booked to the T. But if you can get in, I know he has a couple slots open this week, but that's a guy that's a great therapist. He's been helping out me recently with some issues. And, because I'm a fucking self-made millionaire, and I did it all by myself, and I did it all through self-help and through red pill knowledge and through the manosphere. But I'm still fine-tuning myself. I'm not perfect. And the only time any of us achieve perfection is when we die. Death is the only perfection. Right? Everything else is life is imperfection. You have to embrace it. But I think we should strive for perfection as much as men, because that is when the quality of your life really gets better, as you continuously strive for perfection. That's why I always say it sounds like a little quip, but for the rest of your life, guys, make money, make muscles, learn game, hold frame. And those things will guide you to having a peaceful, calm, happy life.
You missed French silk pie at Perkins. That's the
other.
Troy, real quick, and for everyone listening, I know Paul. Nothing wrong with Paul, but there is a guy. His name's Dr. David Maloney. He's a sponsor of my show, but he runs a website just for men, histherapist.com. If you need psychological help, there's your guy, PhD, real psychologist, doesn't hate men. Need I say more? So I just wanted to make sure that resource was available.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I would also just say, though, I went to a therapist. I saw a therapist for many years who was not connected with the red pill at all, not connected with this space. Male therapist, good guy, not into any sort of woke stuff or anything like that. And just that process of being able to talk through stuff that had happened in my past was really, really helpful. And when I was going out and about back in the day, meeting girls, I was getting success, but there was always this sort of underlying behind it. There was this sadness, there was this brokenness, and that was emanating through in the interactions. And it took some time, but working with him really, really helped me to work through some of that stuff and put it to rest. And I have also worked with Ryan Christensen and Ryan Fowler as well. So those are great guys, and obviously, we know Paul's a great guy as well.
I'll say this too, like, one thing that to tie into what you just said, Troy, with the therapy and stuff, and like it's like probably the most. I'm probably gonna get so much shit for this, but a lot of the inner game stuff is stored up emotional turmoil, and you have to fucking make peace with that. And dude, sometimes it comes down to you gotta cry. You gotta cry. You have to have. That's what that's what the goal of all therapy is. It's catharsis, and catharsis is emotional release. And sometimes, even as a man, if you need to make peace with something in your past and you need to fucking cry in therapy, don't do it to your fucking girlfriend because she'll leave you. But do it in the privacy of your therapist, someone you can confide in. That release, that emotional release, you will literally feel the weight of the world taken off of your shoulders forever, and you can just have so much more mental space on your your heart. You free up space in your hard drive up here. You know what I mean? And then you can do so much more. When I released all that trauma and all that bullshit I was carrying around, dude, I'm living the dream. Rolo sees the receipts. Rolo sees. I send Rolo all the fucking nasty shit. Like, he sees all the real receipts, and I get thrown off YouTube. But I am living the dream over here, and it's all possible, guys. Like, I was just like you. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up fucking poor. I grew up, like I said, abused, the whole 9 yards. But I was tenacious. I have tenacity in fixing my life, fixing myself, and constantly pushing to the next level. And once you do that, you realize once you get closer to the top, once you start entering the top 20%, you're like, why are there not more people here? This was kind of easy. You start getting to the 10%, as long as you keep on working for yourself, and then you start looking at what everybody else is doing on a day-to-day basis, you're like, oh, this is why everybody fucking sucks. Like, they're all idiots, and they don't see the big picture. But if you figure it out, you have no competition at the top. And like I said, living the dream. Living the dream.
Good stuff, and that's a very positive message to end it on, I think. John unfortunately had to go. John Fitch's had to go. He said, "Got to head out, guys. Check my free self-defense course now." Let's put the link there in the chat. So check that out, guys, because obviously he is the go-to man for all things self-defense and violence related. Let's be blatant about it. Well, let's go around the panel and just say goodbye to everybody. And you can obviously just tell us what you've got going on, what you've got coming up. Now, Mr. King Cole, who is a special guest on today's show, thanks for popping in. Now, you actually do have your own YouTube channel, don't you? Perhaps if you can put the link into the chat, I can share it on the screen. But did you want to just tell guys where they can find you or what you're up to? Because you are building your channel now, aren't you?
Yes, I'm building my channel on YouTube, and we just talk about pickup, and I want to do a live stream with you, Troy, and everything.
Good stuff.
You can come on my channel too.
Yeah, get on.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, because Cole genuinely is an inspirational dude. He really, really is. His mindset, and that's the reason I wanted to bring him on today. His mindset is the best, one of the best that I've ever seen. Just being able to go from approach to approach and just keep going, staying positive, staying upbeat, no matter what. Very, very impressive stuff. So you guys should definitely check out his YouTube channel. If you put the thing in the if you find the link, I'll put it in the chat. I can put it on the screen. Okay, so Sterling, what you got coming up?
Well, this week was a very exciting week for my YouTube channel. We just hit 50K. Subscribers, and the same day YouTube decided to give me a community strike, so I can't post anything about YouTube for the next week. But you should go and check out all the ton of free sex advice, free bedroom advice content I've been dropping every single week. There's a ton of really good stuff out there, so check that out right now. And in the next month, I'm releasing a whole bunch of different courses. I've got a new book coming out, got a new video course coming out, and I'm going to start doing some monthly, because a lot of guys have been asking for like one-on-one coaching and stuff, and so I'm going to start doing a monthly group coaching, like a private Zoom call for guys who subscribe to that. So that's what's coming out.
Good stuff. And hopefully we're doing a show together soon as well.
Exactly, we will be.
Good stuff. And Mr. Aaron Clary.
I like John. I'm on vacation, but off of it today. So going back to the grind, and basically I'm just gonna be doing asshole consulting, playing catch up on all the backlog of requests. So if you want to tune into my channel today to see me yell and curse at people and call them idiots, you can do that. Otherwise, nothing exciting in my world. I guess if you're new to me, go check out my book, Bachelor Pad Economics, and yeah, that's about it.
Good stuff. And Mr. Tomasi.
Yo. I am on tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on my channel, as you are probably all aware of. I don't know what my topic is going to be just yet. I have so many people like throwing topics at me. I was actually considering doing a breakdown video of this latest one of Louder with Crowder, because it's sort of in the same theme of what I'm seeing going on right now in the mainstreamosphere, where it's almost like masculine apologetics. At the same time, they're saying, well, how come, what's up with men? What's with these men? Right. You know, at the same time, like they're dumbfounded by all of this. And so I feel like it's maybe like my Christian duty to, correct these guys in their thinking. But that I think it makes for a good show, and it makes for some really good topics. So I'll probably get into that. Also, I'm also considering doing something about like thinking with the little head versus thinking with the big head. That's always a very popular one. I realize, thank you for reminding me that this month is NoFap November. So Ryan and I, and I'm hoping to get Sterling on our annual NoFap show, because seems like we've been doing these for, I think this is the third time we've done one of these, Ryan. I was looking back at my backlog of videos, and I'm like, have we been doing it that long? That's how predictable this stuff is.
Every year I get angrier about it.
Every year it's seeming retention. Let's go back to square one once again. And also, don't forget that November 17th is quote unquote International Men's Day, which is really the code for International Let's Talk About How Men Can Be Better for Women Day. So I will probably be doing something on that day as well. Next week, I will be flying to Tulsa, Oklahoma for Pat Campbell's memorial service, which is next weekend. So if I don't have a show on Sunday, that's why I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm at his memorial service. So that will be if you're interested in going, you can just go check out my Twitter feed, and you can get the location and everything. There's an Eventbrite, I think. It's free, of course. Just, that will give you the directions and when you can go. But Pat Campbell, if you guys did not know, passed away about 2 weeks ago, and the memorial service is now happening. So I will be there. I am also in the works and doing a lot of travel in the next few weeks. I will let you guys know. I'm not gonna say where, when, or with who, but it's the one of these guys is a pretty big deal. So. That's coming up in the near future. There's a possibility I might go back to Miami again for Fresh and Fit. So we'll see how that works out as well. But I got a lot of things coming up as far as my travel plans and going and doing on location stuff. And I don't know how it suddenly happened. I will probably be on with Sterling and Jay if all things work out for the Miami trip as well. So that's coming up. And then book 5 is just about done. The second round of edits are done, and I'm going back through them and sort of tightening the whole thing up. I would expect it will certainly be out by the new year. I would expect within the next 4 to 6 weeks I'll publish. So
I got a topic for you, Rolo.
Sure.
It's called "Call Your Buddy Aaron Back Before He Dies."
Yeah. I
saw you on the road. Punctuality.
It looked
Aaron,
like you were
he just doesn't like you, dude.
I don't live in Pahrump.
Mr. Ryan Stone.
Looks, money, game, frame. Been there, done that, got the trophy. I have enough money for everything I want. I have enough looks for whatever I want. Run enough game to get what I want. now I'm just leaving breadcrumbs. Look, this is what I did. This is what worked for me. This is the stuff I read. This is the stuff I learned. Here's some examples to show you what I'm talking about. It's there if you want it. Anything you would need for 100% of what you need for your red pill journey is on my channel or on my blog or in my book. All you have to do is read it or watch it and you'll be fine. I'm not going to spoon feed it because I did that for a while and there's nothing more frustrating than help people that kind of want to get help but not really. So I just I don't need the aggravation. I don't want to be, and bless John, the fact that he goes and slogs with you guys, goes through hell, and then has to take an unwinding vacation just to get his sanity back. I'm like, bless him for that work ethic. I'm not as patient. So just come check out the channel. And if you want something more casual, I got a second channel. I figure everybody's got Lamborghinis they like showing off in that same picture of wearing a suit and having a cigar and turning your face sideways to see the jaw thing. I'm like, you know what? I'll have a Minecraft channel as a flex there. I can play electronic Legos and still alpha. What else do you got? Anyways, join it. It's the same red pill stuff, but it's more casual and it's a little more community engagement, so you'll like it. We have a merch line coming out pretty soon. It's a nice, taking the piss out of this stuff, not taking it too seriously, and just have fun, guys. It's a fucking game. Picking up girls, it's a game. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, you're not going to break them. You're not going to ruin them for the next guy. Girls are going to do what they're going to do. Don't take them too seriously. Just because they pissed off Steven Crowder doesn't mean they have to piss off you too. Steven's a bit of a bitch that way, and I'm not afraid to say it. Yeah, and that's it for me. Links in the description. If you should know it by now.
May I fluff Ryan a little bit more?
Ooh, I will say this just finally before you fluff me. Book of Puck on Sundays. I'm releasing that pre-recorded. It's on just before Rolo's thing, so you can kind of treat it as your warm-up comedian before Louis C.K. comes on. Now fluff away.
CK. Whoa.
Hey, Ryan, funny is funny, jerking off or not. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
John, well, let me plug. I got it because it's good. Ryan's got a great show. I was listening to it driving across the desert last night, and he has this synthetic '80s music playing in the background. So here I am out near Pahrump, actually, Rolo, and I'm like, wow, this is surreal. It's kind of neat. So yeah, tune into his show.
Oh, the Midswatch one's on Thursdays. Yeah, they're like an old school synth radio show.
Nice. John, you're off at the moment, but have you got anything coming up? Yeah, good. Okay, thank you.
I'll be back in December.
Well, we might be doing a show next week, so we'll talk about that.
On my channel, I'll be promoting Troy's Cat Academy. So if you want to support me, just go to the channel, sign up through his link. I'm just doing it because I just like Troy as a person.
Thank you very much, and I love you as a person too, John. It's good to see you here, man. And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Cat Academy is out now. My inner game and mindset course, Cat Academy, the best inner game and mindset course in the entire history of the world, allegedly, is open now for new students. So I've been spamming the link into the chat, but do check it out. If you go to the page that's on that link there that I'm just putting in the chat now, it will give you all of the information and the links to sign up. This is a course for you if you want to basically go into the festive season and into 2022 with your mindset sorted out, so that you can approach attractive women in a way that is going to be successful, in a way that's going to be amenable to them. You're going to sort it out some of your inner demons. You are going to have confidence. You're going to have the bad boy thing down. You're going to be able to walk up to attractive girls, know precisely what to say, feel less of that fear that maybe you're feeling at the moment, and go out there and dominate as we go into the new year. So now really is the time to jump on board with this stuff. I'll be teaching live webinars on the week commencing the 15th of November. So go over to that link now, sign up now, because it closes in a few days' time. Get into the course, and we're going to have a great time. We're going to learn a lot. So looking forward to it. And that, gentlemen, is it for this week. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for King Cole for jumping on. Thanks, John, for coming in, even though you're on holiday. Thanks, everybody else, for showing up. And we will see you guys again very soon. Do we know who is doing it next week yet?
I don't. It might be John. If John wants to host, he's in. No, he's not hosting. All right, so it'll be me or Ryan. Maybe we'll let Cappy do it again. We need an old man episode.
Wait till I get back to Rapid City. I don't have the
Yeah. No, Cappy's going to do it next.
Can't do it.
Well, it'll be me or Ryan then.
Yeah.
Cappy's going to do it next week, and the topic's going to be, why do these youngsters talk so loud when I'm trying to eat my breakfast? so look out for that. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Bye-bye.